Hi, I'm Michael David Davis.
And I'm Nicole Davis.
And we are your thought partners.
Were you actually okay with the way I said my name? I feel like every time I say my name, you're like, with more gusto.
The more gusto? What's that?
With more
more gusto. I mean, look, I'm just letting you live by your life now.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about, in this episode, the ability to eliminate distractions and streamlining that process.
I love it. This is my love language.
Yeah, she loves streamlining like everything to make the process more efficient. And of course, time blocking, but really those distractions, eliminating them, I think, are probably the most important things.
For sure.
Like, believe it or not, it's painful to do these episodes and put the phone on Do Not Disturb. And I think that is so challenging because, as you mentioned before, it's the...
Oh my gosh.
The pings and
it's the potential of missed opportunity, right? Or missed efficiency, missed follow-up. Like, what am I going to miss by putting my phone on Do Not Disturb for the next 40 minutes or whatever it is? Who might be disappointed in my lack of immediate response?
Huge amount of FOMO. It's like the FOMO queen right here. If somebody says they're doing it and she found out after the fact, it will be my fault that it got missed. But I think ultimately that's probably the most simple thing to talk about. But before we get into even removing the distractions that are around you, I think probably removing the distractions that are actually in our workspace.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing more. I think, this is all about changing your mindset. And I think when you are getting into an environment where you're sitting down, and if we're trying to actually make these changes to become more efficient with ourselves, right? Like, I don't want to go back and sitting to my workspace and it's just cluttered and messy. There's paper stacked up. I have pens or pencils or my keyboard and my mouse and all these chargers or any of that.
I mean, okay, so for you, that does not bring peace. Right?
No.
No.
I'm like, I want 3 items on my desk.
Yeah. But let's be clear. For other people, that does bring peace. So I don't want to make it like you have to have a spotless desk if you want to have a great work day.
Sure.
I think it is, as we've said before, it's about finding what works for you, but it's being realistic about what works for you, because I would tend to agree for myself. I don't like to I get anxious when I have too much stuff in my workspace. And so I do these periodic purges where it's like, let me get rid of all these Post-it notes that are sitting on my monitor. Or let me, clear off these. I really like a paper calendar of to-do lists. And so like sometimes I'll keep them for a couple weeks just to make sure that I don't forget what I need to, whatever.
Can I pause you though?
Yeah.
You mentioned something that's a little shocking to me. So
great.
Yeah, right. Well, but it also kind of goes into what we're talking about with like efficiencies, right? You mentioned having Post-it notes around your monitor. So can you tell us more? Like, I'm very curious. I mean, I've seen it. I just thought you like putting like little color coded things around your monitor because
depends what it is.
It gives you a little more flair. But like,
it's not decorative.
Yeah, I see. Whenever I walk by your office, I'm like, oh, look, she's got like, this is like a yellow day, or this is an orange day. So why do you have those Post-it notes on your monitor?
Okay. I mean, for starters, I think because I started off as a teacher and that's like a staple. Like when you graduate with your education degree, they're like, and here's your obligatory stack of Post-it notes. Right. I don't know. Like, so
tens of thousands of dollars and they give you a stack of Post-it notes.
Amen. Okay. So, and like, by the way, shout out to 3M, but like they have to be the super sticky Post-its. Like you don't want that garbage Post-it business. And you don't want like, no offense to anyone, you don't want like an off-brand Post-it. You need a super sticky 3M Post-it. But I don't know. I think it helps me focus on, I use them for various reasons, right? Sometimes I'll use them in design sessions with clients or partners to kind of help brainstorm. And for me, that's an easier way to brainstorm, right? They're mobile. You can also, I know we're not getting into tools yet. It's going to be really hard for me, but there are also tools like Miro or Mural that can replicate in a digital format, kind of having that design session and the Post-it world. But I don't know. It just depends on how I'm feeling that particular week. Like sometimes it's easier for me if I have a lot going on. I like to steer into the skid. So when I'm really stressed, I kind of throw myself into it more to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So sometimes having Post-its of like all those little things that need to get done, then I can kind of like take them off my monitor, file them up, throw them away.
So how does, I guess to me,
I feel like you're judging me.
I'm always judging.
Okay,
secretly deep inside, I'm judging.
Awesome.
Like,
so healthy.
But to me, I'm thinking about, I guess, because again, this is what gives me the anxiety. If I'm going to my desk and I see these plethora of Post-it notes, just even if they're neatly placed around, the rim of my monitor, that's given me so much anxiety knowing like, oh my gosh, like I need to get these down. I haven't done those. Where, like you said, we're not talking about tools, but like to me, the technology aspect of it, where if it's not on my monitor, but there's something that's on my screen maybe that can get it done, or like you mentioned in the past about like having your tasks to check off. So how do you, is there a determination scale that you have that takes you from using something with like such a actual tactile response versus like what you do, or do you write it down and then you add it into a digital format? Like what's
honest to goodness, I think that I kind of mix up my organizational structure from time to time just to keep myself engaged and like interested. Like I try out a lot of different things. I read a lot about what other people are doing or listen to podcasts like this to figure out what other folks are doing and what's helpful for them. And I try those things out. Like I think we're always a work in progress and I'm not there yet. Right. So for me, I do like to try a bunch of stuff out. The other thing with the Post-its is that this has suddenly become like, an infomercial. But the other thing with the Post-its is that sometimes when I'm in, a meeting and I have really clear points that I want to make sure I hit, sometimes having those like, okay, Nicole, you've got 5 points and here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Post-its, and just having them up on my screen, like, I don't have to worry about doing like the wrong screen share where you have like your notes app up and everyone sees what you were like writing to yourself. I don't know.
So like this is like while you're on a Zoom call, or this is while you're on something. So what I'm doing Zoom calls with clients, I'm trying to look at the camera so that they know I'm looking at them, or, but I also want to watch their reaction. So I'm imagining you have 5 Post-its. So instead of seeing like, if we're on a Zoom call, you're basically putting a Post-it over my face and not looking at me.
Feel targeted right now.
I guess no, it's just more about like understanding, right? Because I think that is a pretty.
I think it just depends. It's not like all the time, right? But it is. I mean, I feel like I put it close enough to the camera so that I can. That's why I put it there, right? So I can still make close enough eye contact. I can like slyly get rid of it once I'm done with that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of depends. I mean, the other thing too is that I do laugh a lot and I'm a loud laugher. And I've noticed that sometimes if I have notes on my desk, I'll laugh and will like blow them off the desk.
Yeah. Wow.
So I need a little adhesive to help me out. Okay.
Right. All right. Look, I think that is a really valid point on just the organization side or even the decluttering. So instead of having maybe 2 or 3 notepads or where you wrote your notes on, this sounds like it's a nice temporary way that once you're finished, you can just pull it down and then it's a clean space.
Look, it's not a system. It's a supplement, right? And I think I'm so shocked that we went down this road, but the whole purpose of saying that was that it doesn't have to look like what you think it should look like. It doesn't have to look like, Marie Kondo just rolled through your office and organized everything and like threw out everything that doesn't spark joy for you. Yeah. Like, I just think different things work for different people. And some people thrive in like stuff. Like stuff brings some people a lot of comfort. And so just having those things around you can kind of,
I think they call those people hoarders.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Right. Fair enough.
But, sometimes there are just like things that have that emotional energy or are calming for you or whatever. And so this is like a 10-minute segment on like, you don't have to have a clean desk to be organized.
Well, but I think it's great because again, like I love having that clean space to go to, right? And again, you are very different than I am, but as you mentioned, I think it's okay for people to realize, because if it was my way, I would be going to people's desks and say like, let's clean this. I feel like, there's some weird maybe teacher that made me have to clean up behind myself all the time. And so that gives me anxiety. But for you, I'm sure most everyone else that's out there, they also have that feeling of, you might have a picture of your pet or your family member or somebody that your partner, just somebody that gives you that comfort when sitting down. But I just feel like those get lost in the other clutter that's around because you're piling other things around it, right? So that's a good happy medium. I think that you have the ability to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's cool.
Okay, great.
I mean, so outside of our desk area, then, like, what else can we declutter? Does it like matter?
I feel like I'm going to just uncover all the ways that I'm still analog and not digital here. But I mean, the other thing that I do, I love a good notebook. And I have, kind of like a labeling system. So there's an organizational system within the notebook. But sometimes for me, it is just really helpful for my own retention of information when I'm sitting at a meeting to like record things down on paper and in a notebook. Sometimes it's more distracting, especially if you're on Zoom or something like that, to sit there like clacking away or have to keep like muting and unmuting every time that you're trying to do your good, like active listening noises with your client, right?
Yeah.
So I do like to keep a notebook, but then I also like to keep those notebooks, which is a little kooky. So I have started a system where I have all my filled notebooks separately. So if I need to reference them, they're there. But they're all kind of facing one direction. And then if I do go back and need to reference something in that notebook, I flip it around the opposite way. So it's kind of like they talk about this when you're decluttering your closet, right? To flip your hanger backwards.
I was just going to say, like, you should see the closet. Like, it's flipped. And I'm like, why are these clothes all backwards? And that's how.
Well, but so you flip the hanger backwards once you've worn it so that you can kind of visually see things that you've worn. And so you can also visually see things that you maybe haven't worn in 3 months, 6 months, whatever, and know things that you may want to start thinking about getting rid of. But anyway, so I do that with my old work notebooks, my filled notebooks, so that after 6 months, I can look and say like, okay, you didn't use one thing in that notebook in the last 6 months. So like look through it. Do you still need it? And, if I feel like I still need it, I still need it. Okay. And I'll hang on to it. But if not, then it's something that can go in the recycling bin or whatever. So that for me has been kind of like a helpful way to have a bit of that analog piece, but also declutter and keep things a little bit more streamlined.
Okay, so we've been talking about the physical decluttering. Is there a way that we can declutter our mind, right? Because I think about, I tell people that I meditate 3 hours a day and people are like, oh, there's no way. There's no way. That's not possible. You still tell me that you don't think I meditate 3 hours
I don't think that's true, but it's fine.
But it's an hour before you get up, like actually physically getting up out of bed, right? Like just putting myself in that mental state of mind of what's happening. I'm not thinking about what tasks that are going on, but just, hey, like I'm breathing, I'm going to get up, I'm going to function, I'm going to do whatever, right? And part of that exercise is also doing that kind of meditation, right? Meditation isn't just sitting there saying Om the whole time. And then, that's 1 hour, and then an hour before going to bed, right? Just kind of like letting what the day's events occurred, getting down. And then like 4 15-minute walks throughout the day, or 4 intentional getting away and getting up from your area of workspace, and then just sitting down, relaxing without the phone, without something, again, that's in your distraction zone. So when I think about how can we declutter our mind before setting down to give ourselves the most efficient process and really be fair to ourselves about getting in and doing the work that we need to get done, what do you have a practice that you do or anything of that nature?
No, I'm a scatterbrain. No, I'm not a scatterbrain, but I don't do enough mindfulness exercises as I should. And I think actually that's maybe, and I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you are exercising moments of mindfulness. And maybe that is also meditation, but it's not maybe meditation in the traditional sense that people envision. Right. So, I think it depends. I think for me, and I think a lot of working women, and, women who aren't working have the same situation. There's a lot to balance. There's a lot in your mind. And, a lot of times you put yourself last on the list of priorities and things that need to get done. And so, I'm no different in that sense. I think sometimes I don't prioritize my own mindfulness or meditation or tidiness of my mind the way that I could. But I do try to find those little moments of mindfulness. And for me, that ends up being before whatever the next big thing is, right? And more often than not, it's something that's maybe bringing up a little anxiety for me. But it is just kind of like taking a moment, take a few deep breaths. I fully believe in having like a personal anthem or some sort of personal mantra that you can say to yourself or sing in your head before you go into an important meeting, or maybe it's a tough conversation, and just kind of, take a moment to breathe and remind yourself how awesome you are or what skills or gifts you're bringing to that meeting or conversation.
I don't disagree. Like I will tell you, like, my mindset, a lot of times I'd have to go into a room because I am very outspoken would be the easy term. But I would say that I have to remind myself, and my mantra is confidence, not dominance, right? Like, so going in with the confidence of knowing how that after whatever discoveries and things that have been observed, you can change that situation or help, really build out something that's going to make the person that you're working with just like, wow, this is great, as opposed to having your own insecurities. Like, I'm sure again, we all, suffer with the imposter syndrome. And a lot of times those insecurities then lay out the dominance, right? We like try to like steamroll somebody behind it. So I think, to me, like when I think about decluttering my mind, that's where I'm very much like, okay, so before I go into this meeting, let me remind myself what's happening, where the situation is, who the person I'm speaking to, and then again, just trying to really reflect their tone back with them, so that I'm like, oh, I'm much more at ease.
Well, and I think to that point, it allows you to be a better participant and a better listener in that conversation when you've let go of whatever your hangups are, whether that's insecurities, whether that's ego, whatever. It really makes you a better partner for that person that you're speaking with or working with, when you are able to kind of take that moment and declutter your own mind before you jump in and start the next conversation.
And I think that goes into like minimizing the interruptions of ourselves, right? Because I know that a lot of times when I'm getting near an end of a meeting, I have to catch myself thinking about, oh man, I need to get off. I need to get off because I've got somebody else I need to talk to. And I start thinking about the other person's situation. And I might miss, even if it's 30 seconds, I might miss a crucial moment that person's speaking about. So again, it's just that little reminder that, all right, hey, stay focused until the very end. I would rather be transparent and honest and say, let me catch up. Can I spend 30 seconds with you? And we just talk about that in a conversation, because sometimes doing that too, they might bring something up that wasn't brought up in a conversation before, whomever I'm speaking with. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad we asked this question. And really, I'm asking the question because I'm trying to get caught up to where they're ready to speak. But sometimes, again, they're just, that new revelation might come out of like, oh, let me remind you of this. But then actually, blah, 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 I was thinking about this too. So it gives them that opportunity to share first, which I'm very hard at doing. Let me let you share first, because I just want to jump in and start talking. So, all right. I think that's good for this segment.
Sure.
When we get back, we're going to talk about all the other fun stuffs.
Let's do this. Are you recording?
I'm recording.
Great. Both of us, our best selves in this moment.
I'm just having fun. Nicole.
Michael.
Yes. I don't know why she doesn't like when I call her name. Like, never have. You're not in trouble.
Okay.
I am now at my most zen. I've been practicing the removal of distractions of what's going on in my mind.
Okay.
I have decluttered my work area.
Love that for you.
I have sat down, and I am now at my most optimal peak performance, getting ready to start my work day.
Okay.
Or maybe even coming back from lunch or something, right?
Great.
And now that I've done that, and I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that. And so, well, I mean,
you've gotten really good at like eliminating distractions and being zen. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like, and if someone out here is doing this and they're putting these into practice, and they've gotten really good at it. Yeah. Right.
I mean, look, you're way better at it than I am.
Yeah.
For sure. I have a noisy brain. I feel like your brain is a lot. Yeah. I feel like your
Nonstop.
brain is a lot. I feel like your
Nonstop.
brain is a lot.
It's the Californian in me.
Yeah, maybe.
We're all tree loving hippie huggers.
Maybe.
Hippie huggers?
I don't really know.
Tree huggers, hippie lovers. There we go. Yeah. Something
Great.
like that.
Okay.
Who knows?
Uh-huh.
Don't put it on a bumper sticker.
No.
It won't sell.
No.
All right. Okay, so I'm in this mindset. I'm there. I'm ready to go. And I'm able to do this and repeat this process like over and over each day, right? But I'm still a mess when it comes to getting things done. I feel
Why?
better. Well, because I feel better. But like...
Is this real you or this is hypothetical? This has to be a hypothetical.
This is the
someone.
hypothetical.
I know. I was like, you get stuff done all the time.
I'm putting empathy shoes on right now.
Ooh, I love. Okay.
I'm really working on like if somebody is not at this Zen state.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but hypothetically, I'm now at my optimal working mindset because I've removed these distractions. I've set my phone to the side. Again, I've turned all these pings and bangs and booms off.
Yeah.
And I've blocked off my calendar so I'm not getting meetings and I'm not getting these interruptions. And I'm really ready to now for the next step, right? And to me,
it's like do something.
Yeah, right. Like
do your work.
I'm right. Which okay, so if I'm going to do this work, right?
Yeah.
I feel like okay, like if we're going to make any kind of reference to a metaphor, like I'm a finely tuned car now. I just got out of the shop, right?
Yeah.
And like
give me that open road.
My free, or not my free, but my synthetic oil is smooth. All the sludge is out of my system.
No, yeah, but
yeah,
sure.
right. So everything's just good. My gas mileage has gone up. My tires are inflated.
Change the oil.
Yeah,
if you can do something.
You know, right. Okay. So, but now, right? Like I'm fully optimized.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it.
Yeah. So what do I do though? Like now, what do I do to prevent myself from like getting bogged down into my work again? Like. You're an expert at this.
Okay, hold it. So so I may not have like the appropriate attitude towards work that I should because I love work and I do struggle with work-life balance and I love being bogged down in my work. So I think to me, this is maybe a little like, I don't know, me, but I like being bogged down in my work. So I guess maybe let's reframe.
Okay.
So you're just ready to get to work, yeah?
Yeah. Or I'm at work and I get to physical work, right? Like I'm ready to start diving into
be productive.
Yeah. But the problem I think hypothetically is that, all right, but I've got 25 things on my tasks, right?
Yeah.
Where do I begin? I haven't gotten to that point where to prioritize my tasks or anything of that nature, but I'm like, I want to do this. And you know what? And I'm trying to avoid the burnout or my fatigue. And like, I want to be able to like, again, make this so much easier for me to do. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. So it sounds super negative, but.
Shocker.
I'm not a negative person.
No, but it's definitely not. I mean, in my head, like I'm always going there first. Like, remember I started
Yeah.
So
it's going to sound super negative, but if you have an I hate this list of like the things that you do during the week, because let's be real, the things that you do have to get done, right? So, you know, if you're your own boss or if you have a boss or a manager, like there's no empathy around like, I don't want to do this. It stinks. It's not fun. Like the job has to get done, right? Yeah. But if you have some tasks on your weekly to-do list or monthly to-do list or whatever, you're like, I hate this, that probably means that there's something there that could be more streamlined, right?
Okay.
That could make it more automatic, that could make it easier for you. And I often find that those are things that we do have to do time and time again. Usually if there's some novelty to a task, it's not necessarily the I hate this that you get. You might get anxious about it, you might get nervous, whatever. But that like deep hatred for one of the items on your to-do list usually comes from something that you have to do a lot.
Yeah.
Or something that you have to do a lot and there is not an easy way to get it done. So to me, that's the first step is start documenting your I hate this list. And from there, you can start to see some patterns, right? Yeah. And again, like every moment is not the moment for assessment, which is why I say make a list. Like at the end of the day, you got to get this stuff done.
Right.
But then when you do have that time to go back and assess and evaluate, start like ticking off those things on your I hate this list, or start, analyzing those things. So do they all use a similar software at your organization, or do they all involve like one particular process or one particular team that you have to work with? Like sometimes that can be the thing too.
Oh, wait. I think I have a real world example.
I'm ready for this.
Okay. So like when I'm doing phone calls and I'm talking to people, hate is such a strong word. Can I say I dislike?
I really don't care for it list.
Yeah.
How about that?
All right. Yeah. Or I really wish someone else would do this list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
it's like if I had a personal assistant wish list.
Yeah. Virtual or not, human being. Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, so I don't like to take notes when I'm talking to somebody on the phone or in a Zoom or something like that. So then would the work smarter, not harder mentality be by like turning on some sort of dictation software, like Google, for instance, has something that they can kick on. So when I'm on a Zoom meeting or I'm on a phone call, or just like we're talking now, it's going to type out all the information I need. So I don't have to. Yeah.
Pause,
so is that like where you're going with this?
Maybe, but let's unpack it.
All right. Let's see.
So
yes.
To me, that doesn't immediately sound like a solution to your problem. But I think we should unpack, like, what did we say? We're not saying, hey, don't care for so much.
I would rather have someone else take my notes.
Right.
Yeah.
So hold, because I said we're going to unpack it, not just repeat the same thing again.
Correct. Yeah.
So what part of it feels frustrating to you?
Yeah.
Would it be the actual typing because I think you've already said like you would rather engage with someone, you would rather be able to read their face, make eye contact, things like that.
It's the repetition. Because
what is repetitive about taking notes?
So I'm taking the notes and then I'm probably having to put this inside of some other CRM,
like a CRM,
or I might be putting it into the notes. Because like you, I think we have very similar styles. I'm just digital. She's very analog and I'm very digital in a sense. So I'm
not 100% analog.
No, you have.
I can't wait to talk about some technology.
You have moved beyond video cassettes, which is surprising. The clamshells are gone. But I think, it's just, so I've got these notes that I've taken. Then I run into the problem where I'm reading I'm like trying to edit myself. And then I'm like trying to put them into another little spot. Maybe it's in their contact or like the conversation I had. And then after I look at that, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to follow up with what we talked about. And then I'm typing out an email at this point, right? So I'm like incorporating the notes that I took that I've now put into the CRM, that I'm now putting into an email for a follow-up email. So I've now typed this out 3 to 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
Right? And so what can I do? Because if I think about that, one conversation is almost 5 minutes worth of work. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I know that there's Salesforce that's out there. I mean, that there's tools as you're making that notes on the call, but this feels very repetitive to me, right? And so how can I make that easier?
I don't know. Okay, so I have some ideas, but these may not be great ideas.
Yeah.
So part of what I'm hearing, I think, is that it's having multiple things in multiple places, right? Or having to go to multiple systems to just kind of take care of one client need or one department need or whatever the case may be. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So in that situation though, I don't know that a dictation software is really going to solve that problem for you, right? Because at least what I find with dictation software is that I still have to go back and edit it anyway, right? And oftentimes if I don't have a recording of what that was, of what that conversation was, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on there. Obviously, there are more sophisticated tools that can do a more accurate job. But maybe some things that would help would be, I find that sometimes we take notes out of compulsion as opposed to need, right? And so what is sometimes helpful, a couple things. So one is a digital solution that is not analog, boo. But if you use a collaboration tool like Miro or Mural or Padlet or something like that, where during these conversations, you're collaborating and everyone is documenting what's happening in the conversation, it takes the onus off of that one person to kind of be the ultimate record keeper. And you've got everyone's notes after that conversation. And
I've got notes on everyone too. Don't get me wrong.
But then it's easier to
Pam will not be getting that email today.
But then it's easier to kind of go back and say like, okay, what were the 3 big ideas here? Something that I'm notorious for is at the end of a meeting where we're using a collaboration space like that, I'll say, okay, everyone grab some Post-its and put your follow-up items on those Post-its. So I really do kind of like distribute out those tasks so that I'm not responsible for everything. Like, I could be, but it keeps people engaged and it keeps people accountable for keeping track of their own to-do list. And then honest to goodness, I just kind of do like a copy paste from those things. Or even better, sometimes I'll take a screenshot of that and throw it into my CRM. And that way I've kind of captured everything that was important in that conversation.
Okay.
Another thing that you can do also is just kind of at the end, go around and have everyone kind of in that moment say, what are your 3 big takeaways from this meeting, right? Yeah. Or what are the 3 things that we need to do as a result of this conversation? And then just documenting those things sometimes can be enough to help you kind of move forward with the next step of whatever that is.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there are times you have to take notes, right? When we're going through a process with a new client and understanding, for me, a lot of times that comes down to educational programs and how many learners do you have participating in this? And there's some of those details that I just have to document. But again, it's out of necessity in those moments. Try to avoid the compulsive note taking.
So how do you take that, right? Because I think that's extremely intelligent. How do I take that and repeat that process? Right? Especially if I'm talking to clients that are, maybe I've worked with one client long enough I can introduce this and say, hey, check this out. This is how I do this. This helps me become more streamlined and more efficient so that I'm better prepared for them. But how do I introduce that with somebody new, right? So that I'm keeping my process continually going without having to, again, feel like I'm taking steps backwards because I didn't set the correct expectation, right? Like, what would be
I think you just answered the question, right? It's setting those expectations early on. This is how I operate. This is the way for me to stay organized and make sure that I'm kind of checking all the boxes for you or following up on all those things that we need to complete together. I think it's also important, and this is, maybe like the mushy gushy squishy part of me, but like checking in with that other person too.
It's pretty firm.
I was going to say the shoulders, good spot. But, checking in with that other person too of here's a system that I use to keep our team organized. Does this work for you? Or, what tools do you use to stay organized? And I think that a lot of times just that expectation setting, but also the checking in with someone else actually wins you a lot of fans. People appreciate being checked in with and not having another system just kind of put upon them.
Yeah.
But obviously it depends on what your roles are, what the scenario is, the organization, things like that.
Nice. So and again, we could have a whole nother episode just about expectation setting and getting the buy-in from somebody, 100%. Right? But I think too, that is just, I don't even know what else to say because I'm wowed. I'm actually very impressed with the fact that to me, it's taking a very complex situation that you also said something right on the head. We tend to muddle doing our own business, right? You mentioned about in the note taking, but I can tell you I am my own enemy when it comes to, because as we talked about before, I'm in that ideation mode. So as I'm doing something, again, strangely enough, I'm not present as I'm doing that task. I'm thinking about 2 or 3 or sometimes 10 other things.
Right. And
now when I look down at what I was doing, I'm like, what the heck was this? Right. And then I'm spending more time trying to figure out what was I trying to do? So I find myself 30 minutes have gone by and I'm just trying to figure out what did I just do? Right. Yeah. And then that's where, again, I get that embarrassment or that kind of shame where I haven't really done anything. Yeah. But I know I have been, right? But there's nothing documented.
It's energy, but not outcomes, right? Yeah. And I think we're inherently just really bad multitaskers. And we all want to tell ourselves that we can do it and we can, push through and look at me, I can cook dinner and answer Slack messages and whatever. We're not good at it. And we need to let go of that idea that it's noble to be great at multitasking, that it's noble to not have work-life balance, all those things, right? we're bad at it. So we need to give ourselves, maybe this is kind of like that thread of continuity of the whole conversation, right? But we need to give ourselves that mental space to be able to focus on the task at hand. And I think maybe next time or a few times from now, we'll talk about some of the tools and, tech apps and things like that you can use to kind of help keep yourself focused when it's difficult or free yourself from distraction. But I mean, I think that's something a lot of people face, and it's because we have this false narrative around multitasking and how noble it is to be able to do that when no one can.
No, right. And I think, and again, it will be next week, which I'm super excited about because we are gonna talk about those tools. So surprise! But like, not only are we gonna talk about like the digital tools, but I'm actually really excited to kind of show off one of my favorite analog tools that somebody recommended to me. And there's a digital version, but something about that analog.
Is it an egg timer?
Why?
Did I guess it right? Did I guess it right?
Now you don't even need to listen or watch because you know everything about the episode.
Oh my God.
It's just all about the egg timer.
It's just all about an egg timer.
Oh
my God.
Egg timer. Yeah.
Time blocking with an egg timer.
Time blocking
like
with an egg
if
timer.
that could be your brand, that would be it.
T-shirts, check them out on the site. So I think, but like talking about the digital and the analog tools that will be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because I know that without them, it is hard to go from that multitasking mindset that we think that we can do to really, again, if we go back to removing the distractions, I think for me, I have to get out of my own way and remove myself as a distraction, right? And once I do that, then I have more freedom and space to trust myself to do the things correctly, as opposed to being more worried that I'm not going to do it correctly. And so, I think those tools, and there's so many, we're going to have to make a huge list because like people, I think Nicole has already 25 that she can rattle off so fast, and that they're all .com. And
they are. But you know what, that just to bring it back for a second, like that's part of the value of checking in with other people about what tools they use, because to think that you've got all the answers is ridiculous, right? And sometimes some of my favorite things that I use now are things that I've picked up from checking in with other people of like, hey, I use Miro. Like, do you use Miro? Oh no, I use, what did we use the other day? Figma. And I was like, this is a game changer, right? I loved working in Figma.
Is that
and that's a different use case.
Drag the little post-its in?
You can drag with everything, but
there's one that is actually post-it related, so we'll have it for next week.
My Lord, okay. But just again to kind of bring it back around, that's the value in looking for feedback. That's the value in checking in with other people about their systems and tools, because you can actually learn a lot if you're open to it. From other people and the things that help them stay organized and free of distractions.
I love it. So next week, that's what we'll be doing. And, not only do we like to talk about these tools, not only do we actually we live and eat and breathe and sleep this, believe it or not. This is what we do for a living. So, we're here sharing all these wonderful tools and informations and ideas just to give you a leg up, hopefully in your environment. But you can just go to mythoughtpartner.com. You can see who we are, what we do, the type of clients we work with that are out there. So we do talk to a lot of people and get their information, but we also apply this in our everyday lives.
Right.
Surprisingly, we even apply it into our personal life, which whenever I set off an egg timer, Nicole comes running out and like, what's going on? It really doesn't happen. But, and I think the other thing is too, is again, you can find us everywhere where podcasts are. You can go to podcast.mythoughtpartner.com. You would think I would know our own website by now by the top of my head, but that's again, because I'm thinking about something else. I'm thinking about wrapping this up. We got to wrap this up.
So just do it, man.
We're out of here. This is your wheelhouse. This is all about streamlining that process, right? So if we're removing the distractions both physically and mentally, what's the benefit of that? And what are we doing?
What's the benefit of that? I feel like we've covered that. But seriously, do you want to do one more? Bye-bye.